I'm here with Robert Falkingham, a Marine, U.S. Marine Corps veteran from Vietnam, and he's from the Pekin area. And we'll start out, drafted or did you join?
Well, I was going to college in Bemidji, Minnesota.
That was a good place to be.
Yeah, and a lot of guys were going across the border back then, but I said, no, I'm gonna join. And I went down, and I had a roommate at college that was in the Marines for 2 years. So I went to the Peoria recruiter, and I said, I'd like to sign up for a 2-year program. He says, I haven't got a 2-year program. Got a 3 and a 4. I says, well, that ain't gonna work. So I went down, and I had put my name in with the Navy Seabees. It was on a 1-day deal where they call you today, you go tomorrow. It's been 6 months in Gulfport, Mississippi, and 2 years in Vietnam. About a week later, I just started work at Caterpillar. So I didn't have my union card. It took 30 days or 60 days.
And what year was that, Bob?
That was 1968.
68.
And a week later, after I started working at Caterpillar and tried to join the Marines, here come my draft notice. I had a college deferment from Bemidji, but it had been long enough that they called up with me. And so I went back down and talked to that Marine recruiter again. I said, this is your last chance, because I don't want to go to the Army. So I went in February 28th, 1969, got out of boot camp. Well, I went to radio school. I was a field radio operator, 2531. And then we got off the plane, and just the stench was the first thing that grabbed you. You could tell you was in a third world nation, and things weren't as fresh and crispy as they were back home. And I remember too, they were burning the diesel in the
waste.
Yeah. Back then. And so that was my indoctrination to Vietnam. It was October 6th, 1969, I went over.
So where did you go? Where was your first
The next day,
duty?
they assigned me to 7th Marines, LZ Baldy, and I got reassigned to LZ Ross, 3rd Battalion. And so we got back in a convoy the next day, and off to Ross we go. And we go in once a week to get a haircut. They had 2 barbers in there, and these guys looked like VC at night. And I never did trust, because at the end of the haircut, they'd take a straight razor and they'd shave you. And the last time I went in there, before I went on my first big operation, I was the only one in there, and I had my 45 locked and loaded in there, because I thought, if he's going to cut me,
he's going too.
He's going too. Well, lo and behold, we did go out on an operation. It was a 45-day operation in the Quezon Mountains, and we got overrun. In the fighting holes that I watched, holes 5, 6, and 7, that was assigned to H&S Company, is where they came in. They came through the concertina wire, and they killed 7 Marines. Everyone had their throat slit. And the guy they called in the concertina wire dead the next day was that barber.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, long story short, I missed that whole scenario because we was up in the mountains. But they got overrun. They killed 59 Marines. They ran out of body bags. They had them land up on the tarmac, and we got lifted back in there the next day because they thought they were going to get overrun again. And so we came in the middle of the day and shored up the perimeter again, and didn't get hit that night. They kept us there a couple days, and we went back on our operation back in the Quezon Mountains.
We gotta get out of this place. If it's the last thing we ever do, we gotta get out of this place.
A few days later, they needed a new radio operator in Kilo Company, and they said, we want to reassign you there, and I said, I want to go. I'm not a guy that likes to sit back in there. I'd rather be out there, and so I spent my next 9 months in the bush, mostly Quezon Mountains, with Kilo 37, and a great group of guys. And wherever the commanding officer went, I followed him. Sometimes he went on point and I was right behind him. And so my 4th month over there, one of the big targets is the radio man and the commanding officer. 6'6" with 10-foot antenna. And they found me 4th month over there, and I got shot on Groundhog's Day, February 2nd, 1970, 11 o'clock in the morning. We had a patrol that had gone out, and they had come in contact with the NVA, had a firefight, and they killed all but one. And they brought back packs and weapons from that. And one of my jobs was to do the spot report and send that into intelligence so they could try to analyze what kind of buildups they had, troop movements, that sort of thing. And I was taking all that information down when all of a sudden a bunch of people that had no business being there started gathering around to see what they brought back. And right at the opportune time, the squad leader that had just come back still had his helmet and his flak jacket on. And he walked right in front of me right as the sniper fired across the river. I'm sure aimed at me because I was the biggest target in the middle of that group. And it went through the back of his helmet, through the back of his head. And I caught the shrapnel from the bullet in the ear and the head. And the guy to my left caught the shrapnel from the helmet and the temple. And they both went down. I ran over about 50 feet to my radios and called in a medevac. And SEAL jumped in the hole with me, and he said, "You're hit too." And I said, "No, I'm not hit. That's just bought off the squad leader." And he said, "No, you're hit too." And I looked down, and I was bleeding pretty good. So they put a compression bandage on that, and I just switched ears and got the medevac called in. And he says, "You're going out with him." I said, I don't need to go out. That's an order. You're going out with him. So the CH-46 came in. They have 2 Huey Cobra gunships, fly support, and they were laying out rockets in a bamboo field across the river where the sniper was. And I was just upset because I couldn't see a 250 or 500,000 bomb airstrike because they were going to call in everything they had on them guys. They didn't know if there was any more than that one guy there that showed up. But anyway, we got out of there. We took some bullets. The 50 caliber started shooting in our 46 as we were taking rounds through the 46s we took off, but we got out of there okay.
So you were evacuated, and you went to a hospital.
Went to USS Sanctuary, which is a hospital ship off the coast of Da Nang, right in front of Monkey Mountain. And the squad leader, miraculously, he went to Japan. Full recovery, came back to our unit 7 months later. Had a good conversation with him. I mean, he was totally healed. The other guy wasn't so fortunate. He went back to States as a vegetable. Don't ever know what happened to him. And I was treated and released. And I got back to my unit, the same chopper I was getting off at LZ Ross. A guy from our headquarters company was getting on. He says, "I'm going out to replace you." And I said, "No, you're not. I'm going back out." He says, "No, I got orders. You got to go back in the rear." And he says, "By the way, they fragged Tiny this morning." We had a good close friend. We had a first sergeant that somebody didn't like. And this happened a lot. This happened, friendly fire from friendly soldiers if they didn't like somebody. And Tiny was on whole watch. He came back to talk to the first sergeant. He walked in the duty hutch, and there's a flak jacket sitting on a little bench like this. He said, "Just move them, Tiny." And so he picked up the flak jacket, and 4 grenades dropped out, pins pulled. He's a bodybuilder from Las Vegas, and Tiny got 3 of them out the door. 4th one took his arm off, died of shock. So that's what I came back to, and they had the CIA and internal investigation going on, try to figure out who did it. They never did find out.
That was quite often when they did that.
Yeah.
Somebody they didn't like, they disappeared.
Yeah, disappeared. After several months out there in the bush, you kind of guys are starting to take their R&R, and you get 1 week R&R for the 12-month you're there. And had an incident in April. We stopped. We were in the Quaison Valley, foothills of the Quaison Mountains, and we stopped at a burned-out pagoda. And I took a picture of my company radio operator and one of my best friends over there. And this is kind of why you tend not to have best friends over there. And Sergeant Pena is his second tour, and he's holding a M1 carbine. I'll show you the picture. I got it on my phone. I carried the actual picture for 40-some years. And it was his birthday the next day. And we just stopped to take a 10-minute break. And 'cause usually we dump 10, 12, 20 clicks. And stopped, and I took their picture, the three of them together. 10 minutes later, we got into a firefight. And it was NVA, big attachment of NVA. And Pena killed 2, and the third one was wounded, and he was following them, and they saw each other at the same time, and they killed each other. He took a round through the neck, came out the top of his head, killed instantly, and I said, I guess I'm ready to take that R&R, and I did, went away for, but anyway, every once in a while I'll get on the Vietnam Memorial Wall, and I saw John Pena's name there with 2 posts. He had 2 brothers I didn't know about. He was from Tucson, Arizona, and I always wanted to take that picture to his mom and dad, but I just couldn't bring myself to look him up and do it and tell him the story about how his son was a hero. Anyway, the one post was his brother, who was also in the Marines. Didn't even know his brother was killed a month after he had been killed. He was in country at the same time John was. The other brother had said, to the brother I never met. And that really touched me. So I tracked them down. I found the addresses where they lived. I sent them both letters. And I said, I got something about your brother I want to share if I can. And I got a call a couple weeks later from Daniel Pena from Tucson, Arizona. And come to find out, their mother and father had separated, and Daniel was raised by the mother, had a different mother, but they had the same father. And so I made a trip. I went out to Tucson, Arizona. I took that picture and gave it to him. Told him how proud I was of his brother, and how sorry I was that I didn't get it to his mom and dad and be able to share that with them before they passed away. But he was a great soldier, and there's a lot of great lives that were left there, 58,000 of them, and there's probably a lot more than that that are still dying the death back here. And I won't get into my particulars, but I'm still battling issues, several issues that working with the VA on, but just want to, give my blessing to John.
Bob, thanks.
You're welcome.
I mean, thank you.
Thank you.